Good rising, tribe SRC. I am Anala D, your host, and we are excited to bring you the fourth episode of the Power of Human Connectivity. Before we begin today, I want us to take just a moment in silence for Kina. She is one of our contributors. I want to take a moment of silence for her nephew, who is Marquis Jamel Watts, whose physical body is in a struggle right now. So let us connect to Marquis Jamel Watts using Kina as our conduit, and let our meditation be that Marquis Jamel Watts be strengthened to make the decision through the power of mind and heart regarding the presence of his physical body. So let us take a moment right now in silence for Marquis. Thank you so much for that. Today, as we dig deep, I want us to keep this scripture in mind that I'm about to read to you, 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18 in the King James Version. And it says this: "For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." So with that, let me just say that I am so glad to have everyone on today. I'm glad to see our guests back with us again. Our audience is back with us again. And as always, we ask that if you have something to say, you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. You can unmute your mic. We will call on you, and then you can be part of the conversation. Now, this morning, we're going to have our mastermind contributors introduce themselves. But before we do that, I want to tell you something that's very important. And please remember this. I want you to use the link that you use to get onto this live broadcast. Send that link to your family and friends, because you already know this broadcast is going to be so good. All right. So I want you to take a moment and do just that. So now, with that being said, let our contributors introduce themselves briefly for a moment. We're going to start off with Mark Thomas. Introduce yourself, please.
Yep.
Unmute.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody this morning. Wow, got quite a crew. Good to see that. My name's Mark Thomas. Glad to be here for, must be our 50th show now. So really happy to participate and to close. I'll be closing today, but sometimes I put in a little more of a message. But Anala.
Thank you. Lavelle Rouser, my brother. Introduce yourself this morning. How are you?
Good morning, everyone, and let's have a most positive session today. Let's contribute.
All right, thank you. Okay, with that, let's let Tamisha Burgess introduce herself this morning. Who are you? What you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Grand rising, everybody. If you've not seen me before, I'm Tamisha Burgess. I'm one of the contributors here at SRC. Anala happens to be my mother. My goddess mother. So I'm very happy to be here. I have a platform for women where I share very taboo, unorthodox philosophies about turning pain into power and journeying through the darkness of your mind and becoming one with not only your light self, but your shadow self. So much we talk about love and light, but I am one of those beings on the planet that also believes in shedding as much light about our dark selves as we do about our light selves. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for that introduction, Tamisha Burgess, who is my daughter. And I don't know if Kina wants to get on. Kina Lyles, she's a part of our mastermind panel. Would you like to introduce yourself? I know you said that you weren't going to show your camera today, but if you want to unmute and introduce yourself, please feel free. Okay.
Greetings, SRC family. Thank you all so much for your prayers and positive meditation and thoughts for my family member. I'm just so honored and happy to be a part of the panel, and I'm excited about the show today. Thank you, Anala.
No problem. And Pastor Archie, I know you are having some challenges with your video this morning, but would you like to unmute and introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Archie Sanders, and it's good to be here. Good to be here, and I endeavor to teach people how to live this life on this earth. Years ago, question came across my mind: why we don't know how to treat each other, and do we really know how to live this life? So I'm thankful to be a part of SRC as a contributor. And as I say, I want people to learn how to live this life on this earth before we leave.
Thank you for that, Pastor Archie. Now today, SRC is honored to have a special guest contributor, illustrious Jakeem Bey. He is a member of the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus. Their mission is to facilitate the various Moorish body politics into a central government for reversion to the sovereignty of the Moorish Imperial Divan. Brother Jakeem is involved in many endeavors, specifically international law, history, science, and finance. Now, I believe that our audience would love to get to know you, Brother Jakeem, and especially about the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus. And as you share more information about yourself and your caucus, let us know what the caucus is doing that reflects the change to affect the whole. Let us welcome our brother, illustrious Jakeem Bey.
Greetings. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I hope you all are well. A bit about me. I can tell you that about 10 or so years ago, I came into, or a little bit more than that, I would say probably about 13 years ago, I came into consciousness when there were a few things happening. I used to be very religious for a section of my life, where I was very heavy into the Bible. And a few things occurred, things that occurred like one day I had a dream. And as I was going, and in this dream, there was a Bible on display in a museum. And as the pages turned, I never turned them, but the wind blew the pages open. And as the pages were going, I seen Anubis in motion throughout the scriptures. So that began me on a quest to seek knowledge far and wide. And it brought me here today, where I now have an understanding of who I am historically, nationally, and truthfully. And my whole mission, along with the Moorish Imperial Restoration Caucus, is to not only bring about our true history, identity, and cultural basis back to us, but also to be able to receive the actual real reparations, or to be able to restore us, because we don't necessarily need reparations, but once we're restored, once our ancient government or our ancient way of life is restored, we're pretty much good to go. So that's what we strive for. So we are taking the steps to be able to bring this internationally, to be able to practice nationhood as a state, so to speak, in the international community. And we have to govern ourselves, because if we look at the experiences that we have gone through in this land abroad, they've not been pleasant. They've actually been very vicious. but to an understanding that we were not particularly good masters when we were in power, and we abused those powers. So therefore, there is a consequence for why you fail, and this is the law of retribution. You cannot do things in a certain manner and not be graceful about them, and don't think that you will not get karma. So we did things when we were in power that did not help us. It, matter of fact, hurt us. So that's why we're here today, trying to gather the pieces together. But also, to be able to teach those that are impoverished to understand that you're not what they say you are. You were not. I know they use this term broke or stuff like that, but you've never been that, especially if you have a birth certificate. It's just you lack the education and the vision to properly know how to capitalize off of these things, and how to make these things benefit you. And basically our mission is to be able to govern ourselves and feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, to create our own means of energy, create our own means of being able to be healthy again, and not just listen to somebody tell us what they think our health should be. So we just basically want to determine our own destiny.
I am loving that, illustrious Jakeem, my brother. I am loving that. And that fits right into what SRC, Shifting Religious Concepts, is all about. Because I tell you, I go back, I was also one of those people that was very, very religious. And I used to preach to my children all the time, took them to every church I could find. And one day, Tamisha said to me, Mom, have you ever thought about maybe perhaps that's not true? I mean, she was my younger child, and she said this to me, and I tell the story all the time. I wanted to, first I wanted to run in the closet and pray for her or something, because I'm like, oh my God, she's turning against God. But at the same time, guess what? I had been kind of going on YouTube and doing a little research and looking at things, and it was so funny that she would bring this to me. It's almost like, has she peeped my card and know I was looking at some other stuff? But she's the one that opened me up to thinking outside of the box. And so Shifting Religious Concepts is about shifting that concept of what religion is all about. And because we believe that the way it has been rewritten has held people in bondage for a very long time. So our subject today, our topic has been the power of human connectivity. And I love what you guys are doing, because that's really the power of human connectivity when you're talking about being able to have your own grid, your own utilities, and becoming sovereign like that. I love that. So today we are talking about who will be first, reflecting a change to affect the whole. In other words, we're talking about making a conscious effort not to focus on what is seen in the world, but focusing on those things not seen, so that we might reflect the change that affects the whole. So Jakeem, I want to ask you, because you talked about a lot of things that you guys are doing. So what is that one thing that you're doing that will reflect a change, meaning that we all can see this change? And then, of course, because you made that change, it is going to affect the whole, so that now we see that there is someone who's able to do this, and that we're going to be able to do it, because that's exactly what Martin Luther King and all those people did. They made a decision to make a change. And when they did, everyone else saw that pattern and followed that pattern. So tell me what that thing is.
Well, that one thing is we've invested in educating our people into our culture and understanding how the world really works. We have not been taught how it really works on an international scale. We have been taught that we are colored people And nowhere in the world does anybody identify themselves by their skin complexion. This is only a caste system game that is played in countries like what you call the United States, or excuse me, the corporation, because it's not a true country. But another example of that would be there in India, where they have a caste system, and it is also delegated by skin tone, where the lighter people on that scale are living a luxurious life, and the people at the very bottom are dark complexion people and are oppressed very severely. So one of the things that we're doing is to educate people on understanding that these things that you see in history, for example, when the United States supposedly broke off from Great Britain, that we can do the same. We need to basically flat out declare our independence from them and be able to govern ourselves. We can determine our own destinations. We know what we want to eat. We know where we want to be. We know what we want to see. And if we don't take the necessary steps to encompass this, then we could likely perish or be that blemish in history for not being able to take the steps necessary to ensure that the generations to come can prosper.
So what you're saying is that if we don't take the steps right now to educate ourselves, we're going to just remain stuck. And we think about it, and I want our panel to get in on this conversation here. When you think about it, how long were we stuck in religion, Pastor Archie? Tamisha, myself, I know I was stuck for a long time in bondage, thinking that one day someone was going to come back and save me. My grandmother, of course, died believing that one day someone would come back and save us. And so now my family, who has been in church and all this stuff forever, now we're learning something different. And so someone had to be the first one. Tamisha was the first one to step out and say, I don't know, Mom, that all the stuff you've been telling me is the truth. I think I want to get a little bit more educated. She stepped out, which caused me to see that pattern and want to step out. And so now our entire family is stepping out and seeing things different. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So Pastor Archie, do you want to jump in on this conversation? I saw you come in. I don't know if you're there. Okay, there you are.
Yeah, I'm in and out, but I tell you, my brother, that is wonderful. And just to try to get a better understanding or actual statement, we're not going to be able to do anything until we come to understand where we fit as far as God is concerned, because it was written that we was made in his image. So now we were made in his image. So there are certain qualities that we supposed to have. As the brother was saying, we know how to govern ourselves, but we've been told that we had to follow someone else. So the person that is really going to be seen or heard is going to be the ones that have taught their citizens how to spiritually understand who God is and who they are. First of all, we got to know that we have power and abilities ourselves, as the brother was saying, but we got to also understand that we are just like God, as you say, Anala. You know, God is in us. God is not outside us. We don't need man to control us and tell us how we should be and what we should be. We need to know that the independence and the power is in us. It's there.
That's right, Pastor Archie. Thank you so much for that. Tamisha Burgess, I see that you muted, so let's hear your contribution.
Yeah, so when Brother Jakeem was mentioning karma, I remember in some episodes before when Dr. Griff was here and Mr. Lavelle was on here too, there was some discussion about, no, we don't accept karma, we don't receive karma. And I left that SRC episode feeling like, no, there is a level of whatever seeds you plant, you reap. or whatever seeds you don't plant, right? You also are not, or reaping or not, or lack thereof. And so I wrote down karma equals lack of knowledge, which equals a lack of power.
That's right. That's
So
right.
karma equals lack of knowledge, which equals lack of power. And we've been learning since we were 10 that knowledge is what?
Power.
Is power. And so the knowledge we've been missing is what Mr. Jakeem is alluding to, is saying, hey, you know, we didn't know what we didn't know, but now that we know, what are we going to do about it? What are we doing about it? And so karma is really generational curses or cycles we keep living because we've not been taught, as you say, about the world we all live in, which we're all responsible for creating, not just following the leader, whatever the leader is, but being a leader in your own power, in your own right, and coming together in your power to create the new worlds that we want to live in. But so much we've been taught to offset our power into something like a savior, right?
That's
And then
right.
we question why, where's my power? Why do I feel powerless? Well, you've been taught to give it away.
Mm,
You've been taught to even vote it away. We call it voting power. This is just coming up right now. Well, we've been taught to give all of our power away as opposed to standing in it ourselves. We've been taught to pray it, you know, to pray for it, to fast for it, to tithe for it, as opposed to just being it ourselves. And so the karma are our generational curses, which we see continue to happen. We look around at melanin people in all cultures, and we do see the majority of suffering as it relates to financial stability, as it relates to mental health, as it relates to resources, as it relates to, we talking about human connectivity. We don't see much human connectivity amongst melanin folk. That is the generational curse.
that's right. Thank you so much for that, Tamisha. Brother Jakeem, I know that you unmuted, so there, I know you wanted to add something else in there.
Well, no, she hit it right on the head. Tamisha hit it right on the head with what I'm explaining, because at one point we had a empire that literally, that is known that the sun never sets upon because it's so vast. And yes, we are victims of our own greed, our own lust, our own just any of those things that are insatiable. But when you come into the understanding that this is an abundant world, I hear people talking about, oh, it's a food shortage. And I always think to myself, number one, this is an entire huge reality. This is an abundant world. This is an abundant universe. There's no such thing as a food shortage. Now, I'm not saying that environmentally, see, this is another part of human connectivity, is to be connected to everything around you, meaning your ecology. I'm not saying from the standpoint you won't have scarcities, and these are the reasons why people migrate. However, there is a point to their migration because there is abundance wherever they're migrating to, where abundance is maybe gone for a cycle, because everything is cyclical, just like your seasons. And, this is just, and I do view this as our cycle, that we are on the bottom when at one point we were on the top.
That's right. That is so right. And if you think about even in nature, you look at the animals know when the cycle of the water or the food in a particular area is no longer. So they move on to another area. I look around sometimes, oh, what happened to the deer? Well, the deer have moved on to greener pastures. And so people standing over in the same pasture that they've been in forever thinking there's no more food left in this pasture. Well, maybe we just need to move on to greener pastures as well. And I think that was so well said. Think about the statement that the subtopic that we're talking about today, reflecting the change to affect the whole. And I know that some people would say, oh, they're out of their mind. They can't, this can't happen. They said that to Martin Luther King Jr., they said it to Muhammad, they said it to Gandhi, Mother Teresa, all of those people who decided to be the first to make a change. And what I see, what you guys are doing, Brother Jakeem, is that you're saying, hey, we can do this. We can do this. We can govern ourselves. We don't need someone to tell us how to govern ourselves. Yeah, you took it for a moment. In fact, we gave it away for a moment. But now we are being educated and we're taking it back. And whether you want to give it back to us or not, we're going to take it back because we know that we can thrive without you telling us how to do that. And I believe that when other people witness this pattern of change, they're going to gravitate to it, just like they did with Martin Luther King. How many people were telling him, oh, you shouldn't be, you should fight. You should go to war because peace is not going to work. Well, peace did work. We saw that. But what happened? Because it wasn't imprinted, it wasn't that pattern that we wanted to hold on to, we went right back to doing the same things that we had done before and lost all of the momentum that we had. So I'm saying that when you see a pattern and it's one that you should gravitate to, like you having your own economy and doing those things, why not learn more about that? Why not be more educated? And don't be like a person that look into the mirror and as soon as you walk away, you forget what you learned. So you forget all the things you've been taught about how powerful we are as a people and go right back to doing the same thing again. So with that being said,
I think Mark had something to say there.
yeah, okay, that's why. I didn't. Thank you, Tamisha. I didn't see him. Thank you so much, because your mute is still on, so that's why I didn't see it.
I had my hand up, but I guess that don't work so good sometimes.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No, I wanted to ask Brother Jakeem. He mentioned empire, how in ancient times the Moors were an empire that covered a huge swath of land in Europe and Asia. I'm just wondering what land do you identify with? And when you speak government, I assume you're talking about a specific place. I'm just wondering where that is, and also if you identify with any particular other people who are in the same, because what comes to my mind is like American Indians, Palestinians. I wonder if you identify with those people as well.
Absolutely, that's our extended family. And when you say over a stretch of land, when we're talking empire, we're talking lands and seas. That's how vast the empire was, and there's many books written on this, how our grand vast empire was. And we can go even into how I know we see things that are taught and we think it's fiction. For example, Atlantis, the ancient lost continent of Atlantis, was really pretty much one of our ancient empires. I mean, one of many, but that spanned it over vast portion of the earth. But of course, no different from how they fell back then. When sometimes you want to become too ambitious and you think that you're above nature. So that ultimately backfired on them. But yes, many of peoples and that they identify with today. Matter of fact, and the misconcept about the American Indian is another tool of oppression as well, because the images that are given out in the public are not actually true. Because when you go to actually recent photographs and books of how they describe these people. For example, you have George Carlin or Catlin, excuse me. George Catlin was one of the very early explorers who described these people as being Black with long locks that he came upon. Or even in the descriptions in Columbus Journal, where he seen the same people in Africa that he saw in Panama, and that they had these spears that were tipped off with silver, gold, and copper. Much like what you see out of the comic book of Wakanda, which that is a wish-washed up version of what really is, because a lot of people don't know the true Wakanda is actually in either North or South Dakota.
Mm.
And that we had advanced civilizations. It's even getting to the point where there are buildings in these cities that we're unaware of because we don't even know who we are, that we built and have been here for actually hundreds, if not thousands of years. If you look at our architecture, you see when you see not only just pyramids, but when you see columns, when you see a lot of brownstone things, these were things that we built, and they're all over the world. If you see it, like how you see the White House, or how you see in the a lot of government buildings, but you'll see these are basically what you call Moorish palaces. So we've had these things and we've built these things, and we're talking about around the world. There's no continent that they're not in. They're in Australia, they're in Asia, they're in Africa, they're in Europe, which that's another discussion about the whole transatlantic slave trade and how untrue and blown up that is. But they only talk about that part of it, but they don't talk about the transatlantic slave trade spearheaded by Oliver Cromwell and the Royal African Company to deport Moors from Europe, where that was their home.
That's right. That is right.
And they're the original Highlanders and Picts, Danes, Scots, all of that. Matter of fact, Scotland comes from Queen Scotta from Egypt. She was the first settler there.
Wow, that is so good. You know, Pastor Austin, do you have your hands up? And then I want to ask our brother Jakeem another question.
Yes, ma'am. Right quick. Before I lose this thought, because education is important. Education is good, but we got to make sure we don't get miseducated concerning ourselves and who we are, because this has gone on for a while. You look at the education system now, and I think we've cited this before, is that the education system is just a conduit to the prison for our young folk, because they're not getting taught the very things that we're talking about, that it is not to be known to our masses, because they don't want them to know the truth. So education is wonderful, but it has to be the right education. We got to have someone in line who's willing to teach us the truth.
That's right. That is so right. And so I was doing some research before you came on the broadcast, Brother Jakeem, and it said that the Moors pulled Spain kicking and screaming out of the Dark Ages. So a lot of people, we think that Spain, no one in Spain looks like us, but it says that the Moors pulled Spain out of the Dark Ages kicking and screaming. And at the time the Moors went into Spain, which was 711 CE, Europe had been in the Dark Ages since 400 CE. The Moors brought to the state of the arts old world advancements, while the Spanish were still pulling leeches off their patients. Wow. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you talked about worldwide. And to me, people think, oh, Spain looks nothing like us, but it was the Moors who pulled them out of the Dark Ages.
Absolutely. And it's not limited to just Spain, the entire of Europe. And I have a funny story. I had a I had a traffic violation that I had to address, and I had to show up to court. And there were these lawyers when I was actually wearing my Moorish fez, which is maroon. I don't have it right now, but it was maroon at the time. And these guys were whispering to each other, and I'm with my brother Jabir, and he's assisting me, but he noticed that they were looking and talking, and then they came over, and then they started asking me questions. And then that was one of the things I said, that we civilized Europe. And he actually corrected me, no, all of Europe. I mean, excuse me, that we only civilized Spain, but actually all of Europe. We taught them architecture, science. Matter of fact, when we first came upon them, our sciences seemed like magic to them. And we were known as the Magi.
Mm.
And most of the esoteric teachings that have ever been given is what we carried over from our ancient Kemetic or Kemite ancestors, and we brought into Europe. And we taught agriculture, astronomy, astrology, tarot. See, for example, if you look at a lot of movies like Lords of the Rings, or you look at movies like what is the other one? But for example, you'll see things like Lords of the Rings, right? And there was a stone that one of the dwarfs was carrying, and it had runic writing on it. Well, the Moors brought runic into Europe as a divination system before they made it into a writing language system for people to communicate. And that history cannot be negated, because you see the similarities from the runic to the Phonetic. And when you go further into the Phoenicians, it's us again.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And
So
even, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, I want you to keep going. I thought
Okay. So when we're talking about the Danes, who are depicted as the Vikings, even their helmets with the bull horns was also brought in by us. Because and then you'll see that same similarity where you see the headdresses of the what you call the American Indians. You'll see the feathered war bonnet also usually had horns on it as well. So this was a cultural thing. We taught them many things. Every language that's there is influenced by Arabic and Hebrew, because those are what we spoke, because we're an ancient Semitic people. And even when you go into Asia, and actually their Mandarin writing system actually is stemmed from Hebrew.
That is so deep. So, even when the scripture that we read earlier, when it says, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. See, those things that you're talking about, see, people took that scripture and thought, oh, we're waiting for somebody to come back and save us, or, one of these days we can't see heaven on earth. So one day when we go to heaven, it's not talking about those things. What was real, what is real, is the things that we can't even see right now, because they've been taken away. They've been hidden. And those things are more real that Brother Jakeem is talking about than these things that we are now looking at. So, and as a matter of fact, they want to right now even stop our children from learning about who we are. Why? Because we are getting closer and closer to the truth. So what do they want to do? They want to ban the books. They want to ban all these things to keep the education from getting there, because now we're getting closer to what the truth is. More people are conscious, more people are waking up. So what do they want to do now is to change that. And I'm glad that we have people like Brother Jakeem and the rest of us out here who are working to keep this information flowing, to open it up for those who want to be educated. Brother Lavelle, we have not heard from you yet, and I know that you must have some things that you want to say to this brother here, or ask some questions, or make a contribution.
Most appreciate you, Brother Jakeem. I would ask the question of you, since we're on the topic of religion, if you would kindly explain specifically what would be the difference between the religion known as Islam and Islam known as the ancient Moorish science.
Okay, so what you have is when you're talking about the religion, you're talking about in an example is a little bit more of a um degrading down, like you said, like the brother spoke of earlier, is them putting God outside of themselves as opposed to looking inward. When you're looking at the science of Islam, which is esoterics, masonry, agriculture, all of that, these are what can be I mean, well, actually unseen, but then seen at the same time. For example, we would describe the religion as praying that your food grows, and spirituality would be pouring the water to make it grow.
Mm,
So when we're talking about the science is always focused inward, which is what esoterics is about, because that is our ancient sciences. Things like tetragrammaton, the grimoire, all of these things were things that we developed from nature, period, but more on an inward look. And if you actually, they did a, for example, they put under a microscope things like crystals and things like sand, and if you look at the molecules, they resemble a pyramid. So there's no debating on where they got these ideas from. These were things that they saw. These were shapes, geometry, which is also they came up with, that they seen throughout nature, and they had to adjust their lifestyles to emulate nature. So anything outside of nature has already gone awry. Just like how we're hearing things of, artificial beings or certain things that are in the works, like cloning, all that stuff. It's like, why are you tampering with that which God has already brought to us, which is already in us? So yes, the creed was more so like a mind control takeover, and like you say, the takeover of the people's power, that is still not fostering any type of growth, if you really notice,
that's right.
as opposed to spirituality leaving you to be free to lead you where your spirit guides you.
Lavelle, did you want to follow up?
Yes, well, Brother Jakeem, thank you for that explanation. That's exactly what I was looking for. You know, when we speak about the sciences, and he made mention of the word grimoire, it's interesting that you brought that up, because just recently I was studying about the educational system that we once had. And when you look at the word grammar, and when I was being educated way back when, we called it grammar school. And it was also called elementary school, and elementary school dealt with the elements. Okay, so all of that has been removed in society, and we become a technologically based, where we're just doing input, output, and not doing any reasonable thinking or rational or irrational thinking. So appreciate you, Brother Jakeem, for bringing all those points out.
And appreciate you, because you saw that, and it is so true. Like you said, it deals with the elements. These are elementaries. And really what religion is as a whole, or what they've created it to be, and what religion originally was to us, was a teaching tool. So for example, they are what I would call anthropomorphisms of nature, to teach the elementary part of nature. That's what religion was for. But at a certain point, you were to graduate from that. That is a starting point, because we have to be able to convey this to children. Just like when you read a child's book, The Cat in the Hat, the cat did this, the cat did that. That's what religion originally was for. But they've taken it and binded us in it, and have us living in it and having us being adults with childlike minds. So I thank you for recognizing that, brother, because it's all needed.
God.
Brother, Pastor Archie.
Lord have mercy. See, I tell you what, my brother, that look, see, see, you hit something there when you said religion, because I found out religion is returning. Religion, we were supposed to return to who we really are based on God himself, who said, let us make man in our image. We supposed to be taught, as you said, elementary, how we are to become who God is. He's the same as we are. And religion was originally meant to return to who we originally are. But see, we're not being taught that we've been put in this group and broke up into all these different things that they call religion, and it's not returning you. See, y'all get me excited. It's not returning you to who you really are. It's taking you away from what you're supposed to be.
I have something to add to that too, as far as return. Brother Jakeem mentioning the pyramids, our ancient sites, and I'm hearing return, and I had this download upload that said, see, this is what we're talking about. We were supposed to return even back to Egypt. We look at pyramids as historical sites, and we have tourists going to look at them and take pictures by them. And I could see the ancient ones shaking their head in disappointment, saying we were supposed to return to finish the work, right? We were supposed to return to finish what was being built by our ancestors a long time ago. The pyramids were never supposed to be historical sites to look at and take pictures by. We were supposed to return to finish building them. A little while ago, you mentioned, Brother Jakeem, the ancient cities, and I put in the comments about these earthquakes, and Keena mentioned, cities being discovered or something to that effect. And the revelation is the earthquakes are occurring because these cities are rising again. There is a returning happening right now. And yeah,
With us or without us, Aunt Tamisha?
With or without us, right? And the without us, we see a lot of people perishing, right? If you're choosing to do without, it's happening, yes, without our permission. So we can either walk willingly or we can get drugged, right? Because this rising, this ancientness isn't asking for permission. And so it's up to us to play a catch up here. But yeah, these earthquakes that are happening globally in places that earthquakes have never happened before is these rising cities coming back into view. It's the returning home.
Wow.
And you mentioned a little while ago the ancient city of the lost city, Atlantis. These awakenings are happening on a global scale, but it's also happening within us as well. Not just awakening or this returning, but these activations that are happening within and without. So I just want to say that.
Thank you so much for that. Mark Thomas, I know I might not be able to see when your mute is off or something, but did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, I do want to know, Brother Mark Thomas, before we move on, did I answer your question correct?
No, yeah, actually, there was one thing that was outstanding there in the question that I asked you, Brother Jakeem, was that on the specific geographic area you were talking, it sounds, I mean, I've never heard of your organization before, but it sounds like, to me, like it's a lot like Palestinians, that you want land, a place.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And actually it's more than one place, because we're on more than one land mass, and that's how our empire was. And absolutely, that's our extended family, just like no different from what you call now Filipinos, aptly named after their conqueror, King Philip. They know that they're not Philippines. They know that they are what you call Moro people. That is our
Right.
extended family as well. And the same
Mhm.
thing like our Dravidian brothers and sisters that are now called Indian in the East. They are really Bharatians, or they are the true Aryans.
Mhm.
Wow.
So we
All right.
want to
Yeah.
restore them. And all they need is restoration. We don't necessarily need reparations, but if we get restored, we can continue on and advance our lives.
Yeah, in my research, I saw, I mean, I got the impression that Mauritania was like an original place. And I was wondering if you were spotlighting, that's Morocco and those areas.
Okay.
I mean,
That
is that one of the places you're talking about?
one of the places, but what you are now calling modern day Morocco is something that was created by the French and Spanish
Right.
as a territorial colony in 1956, as opposed to the empire, which were the ones who signed the Treaty of Truth and Peace, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the United States, actually recognizing them as a nation as part of their independence as well, which was an entire empire.
Wow. I love that. So in other words, what I
Thank
hear
you.
Brother Jakeem saying is, no, we don't want you to just give us a little piece of land over here like you've done the Native American Indians, and give us something that really wasn't worth that much. We want to be restored. Restored would mean that not only, we want everything that we had before, just restore our rights back the way they were
That's it.
before you came in and demolished them. That's what we want. And then when you do that, that is not going to limit us to one little piece of this or one little piece of that. It's the world when we restore. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm loving that. And I know we're almost out of time, and this is so good, but we have some audience on, and I want to make sure that if they want to ask a question, because we have this powerful brother on today, and even his name. I looked up your name because some people like illustrious. Well, listen, guys, this is what his name means. The name that he's highly distinguished, renowned, famous, glorious, bright, and clear. And I think he's been all of those things today. Don't you agree with that? Okay, Tamisha, you unmuted. You wanted to add something?
No, I was going to add to the restoration part. I love the difference between reparations and restorations. I never thought about it in that term, but you do see people, like Mark mentioned, the Palestinians who are fighting for what already has belonged to them. Like I'm not asking for permission. I shouldn't have to ask for permission for my own shit, right?
Right.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And like one day we were talking to Miss, you shouldn't even have, why should we ask for permission to travel anywhere on this land? I mean, we should be able to just go and go visit someone in Australia and not have to get a visa or something like, why? What happened? So that's another conversation, I know, but it's the same thing that we're talking about here today, that we should be free to do and to be.
And here's the thing, this is the new world that's here, right? This is our opportunity to make that happen. We cannot do it with the way things were done before. This is why everything had to crash and burn.
Right.
That's right.
This is why systems have had to fail. So now the universe came in and destroyed and knocked everything down, and are looking at us, the chosen ones, those here, we're talking about this. And after we get off of here, and people, when you're listening to this, what are you going to do now with this information? Now that everything has been destroyed, the universe is looking at us like, okay, now are you going to do what we brought you here to do, what we sent you here to do, what you were born to do? This is your opportunity to rebuild and take back what's always been yours. Yes, creating this new world where people don't have to, this is a whole one planet. This is one planet, one whole big old rock floating in the middle of nowhere. We have no idea where we are, but we are on this big rock. One planet, the human race on this planet, why do we have things in place that are separating us when we're all on this one big space by ourselves? Why do we have rules in place? So yes, the new world that is here, the new world that we have the opportunity to create would mean that we get rid of these barriers so people can come and go as they choose.
That's right. Brother Ray Wood, I know that you're on today. Is there anything you want to add or want to say to, or want to ask a question or anything you want to add? I know you're on today and I know that you are a philosopher in your own right. So if you would like to unmute.
He's a little shy, but I'm gonna speak for him because he's been over here yelling and screaming, and he don't know how to unmute his phone. But he has been enjoying this over here, and my goodness, brother Jakeem, am I saying it correctly?
Yes, you are.
Okay, he has been agreeing with you. He done stood up in the chair. Oh my goodness! So you have woken him up this morning. So thank you
I
guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
No
I
problem.
appreciate you all.
Anybody else want to ask our brother a question while we have him on here? You can unmute. You know, we invite our audience to participate. So if there's anything you want to say, Victor, all the way from Nigeria.
Ms. Kina commented she does ask for if you do any classes or anything like that, if you have contact information, and you can give your email or your social media links or website, where she asked about classes and if you teach anything.
Yes, if you would put those in the chat, I would really appreciate them so that everybody could see them. And if you do the classes, yeah, respond to that.
Okay, yes, we do have those. Right now, what we have is the Academy of Providence. That was one of the first things because if you look anciently, one of the first things we did when we came to Europe, we established colleges first. That was the first thing, because you needed to be educated. You needed to know how to be a blacksmith. You needed to know how to, smelt iron. You needed to know these things because it was the colleges who create the economies. Because you have to bring every inner workings of every what you call industry into a society. Yes, Academy of Providence is one. I'm gonna try to write this stuff because this is quite a bit.
I know that Tamisha's been putting a lot of it in there for you, Brother Jakeem. She's been,
I appreciate her.
Yes, I do too.
Yes, and I appreciate you all for having me on, because see, that's one of the things is we need to be able to further advance our lives in the destiny in which we choose to take it. And yes, are we gonna have our own people kicking and screaming? Yes, but however, I think it's also up to us to understand. This is what my business partner told me, was that the best real estate that you could ever invest in is your people. And when you do that, the return is abundant. And that's what we plan on doing. Some of the things we plan on doing is we're going to have our own bank where we're going to literally, any foreclosed or delinquent properties in our communities will be bought out by us, and you will be able to get into programs to where you can have a house and be able to pay it off in 7 years. That's just one of the things. So we're going to get you out of your debt. We're going to create drug and alcohol facilities, homes for battered women and children, homes for our seniors, all of those things. This is how you invest in your community correctly. You clean them up, therefore they can become productive once again.
I love that.
I'd like to add to that, investing in real estate, beginning with the mind of the people and the people.
Absolutely.
Themselves.
That's right.
That's where the colleges come in. Absolutely. That's the first thing. But then again, we know some of our people, or people in general, because we can't help nobody if we can't help ourselves. That's so right. I can't say to my next door neighbor, your grass is too high and my house is on fire.
We just talked about that last week. That is amazing. So in other words, what the Moors want to do, what I hear you saying, Brother Jakeem, just like Moors did with Spain, pulling and dragging them out of the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages for us right now is not being self-sufficient. The Dark Ages for us right now is depending on someone else, when we should be all depending on yourself and working together, the connectivity of each other to make the whole. That's what we should be doing. So the same thing that happened back in Spain is what I understand, what I'm understanding right now, is that we want to pull people out of the Dark Ages the same way that SRC wanted to pull people out of, not saying that you don't need to, I'm not saying anything negative about religion, but we wanted to pull people out of the bondage of religion. And that's what that was all about. And I know we are out of time. In your final thoughts, and we're going to just let Brother Jakeem leave his final thoughts before we turn it over to Mark Thomas, who will take us out today. Your final thoughts, Brother Jakeem.
Well, I just wanted to say I appreciate you all for having me on. And I thank you, and I look forward to moving in this great work with you, because once we can restore ourselves, then we can help the world. If you see all of these calamities going on, economies falling down, is because obviously they don't have it correct, or the problem is you have a parasitic elite at the head of these places who must be revealed. So that's what we're here to do, and not only reveal that of ourselves, but to reveal that of what we learn about ourselves and what we can do to the world so we could actually live in abundance.
Thank you so much for that. Tamisha, I know that you had your mic off. There's anything you want to say before we, Pastor Archie? Okay. Pastor Archie?
Well, I tell you, this was very exciting to me. I love this here because, you know, people look at me as a pastor, and I was really, really religious into the gospel. And I'm not saying that, you know, I knock the gospel, but what I am saying, you got to go beyond what they have told us. And that is what I've decided to do, is get away from the basic stuff that's been told to me and find out these questions that I have on my own, because most of the time you ask a question, you just gonna get a basic answer or something that really don't even answer your question. So wonderful. This was great. And I like to do more of this here.
I love it. Sister Akina, do you have anything you wanted to add before we, and then we're going to go to Brother Lavelle Rosser, and then we're going to let Mark Thomas take us out. Sister Lakina.
Yes, I cannot wait to share this video. That's all I got to say. I'm also looking forward to more. I'll be reaching out about the academy. I've heard a lot about the Moors. I've, picked up little information here and there, but I've always wanted to dive a little more deeply into it. So I'm honored to meet you. And again, looking forward to learning more.
Absolutely. Brother Lavelle Rosser.
Much appreciation, Brother illustrious Jakeem Bey, and to the entire SRC family. So let's do it again and keep it rolling hard and strong.
I love that. Tamisha, did you have anything you want to add?
I'm just very, I feel not excited. Excited is almost an understatement. I'm thankful that we've all been activated into what we're here to do, and not just talking about it, but actually putting tangible efforts into place. And I look forward to seeing what we all have been suppressing and hiding all this time.
I love that. Brother Mark Thomas, what do you have to add and take us out? We are way out of time.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, remind our audience and everybody that, this situation that the illustrious Jakeem is telling us about today is still happening today. There's countries that are being oppressed right now, and that, you can just find examples all over the world where people are being disenfranchised, and it's a lot easier to disenfranchise some group of people than it is to make them whole again, if ever. So I think, but just as individuals, we need to all be aware of that and speak on this. I'll give a shout out to the Ukrainian people and all those and everybody else that are stressed so badly today because of these narrow-minded little people who are running governments. So yeah, that's my closing statement. And I'm going to close the show too. Yeah, great show. Really, thank you, Brother illustrious Jakeem Bey. Thank you very much. Really wonderful.
Thank you all. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we can keep this going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So all of us here with SRC want to thank the audience for attending today's presentation. We really appreciate your patronage and encourage you to email us your questions or comments at shiftingreligiousconcepts@gmail.com. And don't forget that this presentation will be available on YouTube soon. So even if you attended today's program, please go to the Shifting Religious Concepts channel and give us a thumbs up. This is one of the few ways we get recognition, and it really helps promote our mission. So if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, go to shiftingreligiousconcepts.com/registration and join us. So So our next presentation will be on Sunday, March 13th. That's right on all of them, Sunday, March 13th at 10
That's
o'clock Eastern. So please join us then for more conversations on the power of human connectivity. And until then, we wish you all peace, health, wisdom, and love, of course.